Hey, and welcome to Synaptic Soul, the podcast where science meets spirit, and we get real about the beautiful and brutal and magical mess of being human. I'm your host, Ava Marie Anderson, writer, mystic, multidimensional mischief maker. Quick disclaimer, you may hear the occasional snort, sigh, dramatic flop from my two French bulldogs, Rocky and Rambo. They're the soundtracks of my life, my soul companions, and honestly, the real stars of the show. Someday we'll dedicate a full episode to their role in my daily rituals, emotional healing, and wild spiritual life. But for now, just know that they're always close by, snoring their support. Let's dive in. Before we dive into the great Reincarnation remix, let me give you a little heads up. If you hear some extra snorts or sneezes or chaotic background wiggles, it's not spiritual interference from a past life. It's just Rocky and Rambo, my Frenchie soulmates. They are currently losing their damn minds because this is their first vacation ever and their first time in a hotel room. We have officially entered tiny dog spring break energy, and they are exploring every corner like old day secrets. They're barking at hallway ghosts or maybe even other hotel guests and contributing to their own unique sound design to this episode. So if it gets a little noisy, just know it's sacred Frenchie chaos. And as always, they're not just pets. They're reincarnation guardians with strong opinions and even louder snores. You ever walk into a building and feel like you've already memorized the blueprints? Or maybe you meet somebody for the first time and you have that weird moment where you both pause and you blink and you silently agree, oh, we've definitely done this before. Yeah, that's not just coincidence, baby. That is soul memory. That's reincarnation whispering in your ear like, hi, welcome back. But let's be real. Western culture loves a linear storyline. Like you're born and you live and you basically just die. And if you're good, maybe you float up to some cloud-riddled heaven to hang out with harp-playing angels. But the rest of the world, the ancient world, the indigenous teachings, the mystics and the yogis and the metaphysicists, they've always known that it has never been about a single ride. Because life is a loop. It's a spiral. It's a remix. And we've been hitting replay for eons. But let's pull in a little science to anchor the woo. Quantum physics tells us that energy never disappears. It only transforms. And that's a law. That's the first law of thermodynamics, to be exact. So you, me, the cells in your dog's paw, all of it is energy, all vibrating at different frequencies. So when the body dies, where does that energy go? Does it just vanish? No, ma'am. That's not how nature works. Nature recycles. Everything in nature reuses energy. So stars explode and they create planets, or forests burn and they make way for new life. And your soul is no different. Like, we are stardust with stories. We are literal, walking universes, housing a consciousness that has likely occupied dozens, maybe hundreds of forms across time. And here's the kicker. Time, in the quantum sense, isn't even linear. It's layered. It's past and present and future, all existing simultaneously. And that means that your so-called past lives may not even be the past. They're running right alongside this one like parallel windows open on a cosmic desktop. And it's glitchy, and it's overlapping, and sometimes they accidentally email each other. But there are kids all over the world right now remembering names and dates and entire existences before they basically never even learned in this life. This is research by Dr. Jim Tucker and his predecessor, Dr. Ian Stevenson, who have both documented over 2,500 cases of children recalling accurate, verifiable details of past lives, like details that would have been impossible to guess or to fake. There's a little boy. He knew the name of the man who sold his former self's car. Or a toddler remembered being a World War II pilot and then described the inside of a plane I can't even say that word, cockpit, with chilling accuracy. Like, are they lying? Or are they just not totally amnesiac yet? Because let's be clear, we do forget. That is the part of the deal, unfortunately, when you incarnate. And most of us show up here with what spiritual folks call the veil. It's like a cosmic brain fog. Like, you forget who you've been and what you've done and where you came from because the forgetting allows you to learn like it's the first time. The forgetting is the sacred reset. It makes the emotions real and the stakes high and the lessons deep. And if we remembered it all, we'd game the system. We would manipulate the outcomes instead of surrendering to the soul's growth curve. But every now and then, the veil thins. You smell something that hits a memory not from this life, or you have a dream so vivid that it feels like waking, or you meet somebody and your whole nervous system goes, oh shit. That's not magic. That's memory. That is soul memory, and it is so real. But let's zoom out and take a look at what the ancient traditions have been saying for forever. Like, Hinduism calls it samsara, the cycle of birth and death and rebirth. And the goal is to transcend it. And not to escape life, but to master it so you no longer need to reincarnate into the same old loops. Tibetan Buddhism says something similar, and let me tell you, the Bardo teachings are basically a metaphysical user manual for what happens after you die and you come back. They describe states of consciousness that you move through, the review process that your soul undergoes, and even how the conditions for your next life are seeded by your unresolved karma. It's not woo, it's curriculum. The ancient Egyptians believed in the Ka and the Ba, soul aspects that journeyed through the underworld, facing a final reckoning at the scales of Maat. Your heart was weighed against a feather, not your resume, not your salary, but your daggum heart. Lightness of being, that was the goal. And that sounds a whole lot like karma to me. And then you have indigenous traditions around the world, from the Aboriginal dream time to the Navajo soul return beliefs. They've always honored the continuity of life because the ancestors aren't gone. They're simply in another form, and they're watching and they're guiding and they're waiting for the next sacred opportunity to rejoin the cycle and help steer the collective growth of their people. So reincarnation, in every tradition, isn't about punishment. It's about progression. It's not a divine slap on the wrist for past mistakes. It is a chance to evolve and to try again and to get it right, or at least righter this time around. But let's be honest, this perspective changes everything. If you knew that you were going to live again, would you still chase the same metrics of success? Would you still fear death? Would you still treat people the way that you do? Or would you start asking yourself, what am I leaving in my own energetic trail? Because guess what? You're going to walk through that trail eventually. And on a more personal note, if you're even listening to this podcast, you're probably not on your first rodeo. And the fact that you're curious about reincarnation, that you're asking the big existential questions, tells me that your soul has been around the galactic block a few times. And this isn't your debut. It's just a return. And babe, let me tell you, you are carrying wisdom in your bones that your mind hasn't even caught up to yet. So let me just land this with one final truth bomb. You didn't start here, and you won't end here, but you are here now. And that means that this lifetime matters, that this body matters, that this chapter, even with all of its mess, with all of its heartbreak and all the unanswered questions, it is sacred because it's a part of your soul's larger mosaic. One tile in a pattern so divine that it defies comprehension. You don't have to remember all of your lifetimes to honor this one. But you can start listening to the echoes. You can start following the chills and paying attention to the moments that feel like deja vu wrapped in goosebumps. Because that's your soul talking, and it remembers. This episode is brought to you in part by one of my most favorite humans on this spinning planet, Morgan Garza, and her book Soul Magic. If you've ever felt like your power was just waiting beneath the surface, or like there's something ancient and electric inside of you ready to be reclaimed, then this is the book that helps you remember. Soul Magic is not just a read, it is a summoning. It's filled with rituals and stories and the kind of grounded spiritual wisdom that doesn't talk at you, it talks with you. Morgan writes like a soul sister, a cosmic cheerleader, and a priestess all rolled into one. And it's a must-have for anyone on the path of awakening, reclaiming. So grab your copy at morgangarza.com or wherever books are sold, or bless someone else's journey and gift it, because real magic's meant to be shared. That's Soul Magic by Morgan Garza. You'll feel it in your bones. Let's talk about the people who walk into your life and they feel like both a bomb and a blessing. They're the ones that light up your whole nervous system like a Las Vegas strip sign. And they're the ones that irritate you down to your mitochondria, or maybe even wrap you in safety that you didn't know your body was starving for. So enter your soul family. You didn't just bump into them at a coffee shop. You scheduled that rendezvous eons ago, probably while sipping something celestial and agreeing to meet again on Earth, knowing damn well that it would be messy and magical and also totally worth it. Because here's the deal. We don't incarnate solo. You didn't come down here with a blindfold and no contacts or a backup. Like, you came with a cast, a little soul pod, a little cosmic troop of weirdos who agreed to meet you lifetime after lifetime, each playing different roles, all just to help you grow. So think of it like, like a spiritual improv theater. In one life, your best friend is your mom. In another, your dad is your soulmate. In another, your worst heartbreak is your twin flame here to shake you awake. And it's not random. It's choreography. It is soul contract jazz. Now, not all soul family members are sweet. Like, some of them are a little spicy. Like cayenne pepper in a wound spicy. Like that boss who makes you question your worth every day, or that friend you keep trying to fix, or that lover who ghosted and left you reeling, but also woke up every wound you'd buried since 2002. Yeah, they're all possibly soul family. Possibly here with a contract to play just a very specific role that activates a very specific lesson for you. And then this is where it gets wild. Soul families don't show up because they owe you something. They show up because they love you. And sometimes that love looks like, a push off a cliff because you forgot that you could fly. And I'm not saying stay in an abusive situation. Boundaries are sacred, baby. But what I am saying is that the people who shake you, the ones who stir something ancient inside of you, they deserve a second look. Because they might be echoes from another timeline. And they might be showing up now to complete a loop that started way before you had an iPhone. But let's go deeper. What is a soul family, like technically speaking? So, in energetic terms, they're fragments of one shared origin point. Soul groups often come from the same soul monad. So think of it like the original cluster before the soul individuates. And these monads fractal out and incarnate into different timelines and different bodies and different locations, but they all carry similar energetic signatures. And that's why when you meet somebody from your soul family, you don't need 10 coffee dates to feel close, because you just know. There is an unspoken resonance, a heart buzz, or a nervous system that goes, oh, there you are. And science is starting to peek its head into this territory too. There are studies on heart coherence and electromagnetic fields that suggest that humans can sync their energy fields so deeply when connected. And then add to that Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance theory, which proposes that we're all tapping into collective memory fields. And then you've got the framework that kind of starts to support what ancient traditions have been saying for millennia, which is that we're linked. Not just biologically, not just emotionally, but energetically and through time. And it's not just human to human. Animals can be soul family too. You ever have like a dog or a cat that felt like they just knew you? Like not just a good pet, but a guardian or a mirror or a reincarnated best friend from a past life. I have Frenchies, so I'm obviously biased, but I swear Rocky was once my chihuahua in another life, and Rambo was probably my cat. And we just keep trading roles. They keep guarding my heart, and I keep feeding them very expensive kibble. But let's not romanticize every soul family connection. Because sometimes these relationships are complicated, like therapy level complicated. Sometimes the contract between you and a soul family member is about helping you break a pattern. And that doesn't mean that they stick around forever. Some are just here for a season, not a lifetime. Some arrive just to be the spark that reignites your memory of who the fuck you actually are. And when that's done, they exit stage left. And this is important because just because someone is like a soul family does not mean that they get a free pass to mistreat you. That is not how this works. Just like in regular family dynamics, some people outgrow the version of the relationship that they were in. So you can still love a soul family member and still say, this version of our connection isn't serving either of us. In fact, that boundary might be the very reason that they even came into your life, to help you learn how to say no, how to prioritize your peace, and how to break a generational or karmic pattern. Because soul families stretch across dimensions, and not just this one. And that's why some of your soul family is no longer in physical form, but maybe you feel them with you constantly, like grandparents, lost siblings, miscarried children, or lovers who passed too young. These are often members of your soul pod who return to the ether and they guide from there. And that's why signs and synchronicities and dreams and messages show up. Because they're not gone. They're just vibrating at a different frequency and reaching out across the veil like, hey, I'm still here and I still got you. And speaking of the veil, sometimes you meet someone and you know that you've known them. Maybe it's the eyes or the voice or just that feeling your nervous system recognizes them before your mind catches up. And it's not fantasy. It's the veil thinning. It's two timelines bleeding into one. And it's reincarnation proof, by the way, of goosebumps. So what do we do with this information? How do we use the soul family lens to live better? Well, it's simple. We start asking better questions. Instead of why is this happening to me, we ask, what might our souls be working out here? Instead of why can't I quit this person, we ask, what thread are we still untangling? And instead of forcing relationships to look a certain way, we hold them lightly, letting the soul contract unfold, trusting that each connection is exactly as long and deep and potent as it's meant to be. And the truth is, you've likely traveled with some of the same souls across multiple lifetimes. You've loved them and you've lost them and you've found them again. You built temples and you burned bridges and you made promises that echo across centuries. And now you're doing it again. Not for the drama, not for the trauma, but for the growth and the evolution and the remembering. Because you didn't come here alone. And you don't have to do it alone now. You've got a soul family in the flesh and in the ether, holding the mirror, holding space, holding you accountable to the light that you agreed to embody. So pay attention. The cast is assembling. The scenes are unfolding. And you're right on cue. All right. So now that we've established that reincarnation is not just some I don't know, philosophical daydream, but actually the multi-lifetime program that you signed up for like a soul with a main character energy, let's talk about what the hell you agreed to before you popped into this body. Because you didn't just show up here by accident. Like, oh no, you agreed to some shit. There was a whole ass soul planning committee. There were discussions, there were tea breaks, and somewhere in the great divine Google Docs of the Akashic Records, your soul signed a series of agreements called contracts. and they're the blueprint for your karma. But let's just start with that word, karma. Everybody loves to throw it around like it's a cosmic bitch slap. Like karma's a bitch. They'll get theirs, it's karma. But karma isn't about revenge. It's not the universe waiting in the bushes with a brick. Like it is more like a ripple, a momentum, an echo that travels through lifetimes until it finds resolution. And karma isn't moral, it's energetic. It's not about punishment, it's just about balance. In Sanskrit, karma means action. And for every action, there's a reaction. And that's not just spiritual, by the way, that's Newtonian physics. So every thought, every word, every deed that you put out creates a wave. And sometimes that wave returns in this lifetime. Sometimes it skips ahead and lands in your next one. And sometimes it shows up in the body of your next damn boyfriend and he is emotionally unavailable, just like you were 2 lifetimes ago when you bailed on your high priestess duties to go chase a fucking warlord. I don't make the rules. Your karma isn't just personal. It can be ancestral. It can be collective. It can be attached to specific souls and places and even just cellular memory. And that's why sometimes your body reacts to something before your mind even understands why. Like that phobia of drowning might be from a past life where you were lost at sea. Or that irrational fear of betrayal could be residue of a soul contract where somebody didn't show up when you needed them most, lifetimes ago. And then that brings us to soul contracts, which is the juicy part. These are the agreements that your soul made pre-incarnation, often with other souls in your pod to help facilitate your growth. And some of these contracts are beautiful. The soulmate who supports your expansion, or the mentor who lights your fire, or the best friend who reminds you of your power. And others are less cozy. They're the parent who wounded you so deeply that it forced you into healing. Or the partner who cheated, which cracked open your intuitive gifts. I felt that one. Or the job that crushed your spirit so that you could finally build your own motherfucking empire. Like, these people aren't villains. They're co-stars. And they're co-conspirators for your growth. Now, you don't remember signing these contracts because what's called the veil of forgetting. It's basically a spiritual amnesia that kicks in at birth, and it's necessary. Because if you remembered everything, the betrayals and the deaths and the love stories and then the betrayals again, you would not be able to fully feel your way through this life. You'd be playing chess with a divine hindsight. And that's not the fucking point, bro. The point is to remember who you are while also becoming something new. And here's a big truth bomb. Not all karma is yours. And I'll say it louder for all the empaths in the back. Not all karma is yours. You could be carrying family karma, cultural karma, feminine lineage karma. And sometimes part of your soul contract is to transmute that karma, not because you deserve it, but because you're capable of healing it. And karma can absolutely be reprogrammed. This is that loophole part, because you're not stuck. You're not doomed on repeat forever. You have free will, and that is the wild card in every fucking timeline. Like, yeah, you made the contracts. Yeah, you arrived with momentum. But if karma is energy, then consciousness is the alchemist. When you become aware of the pattern or the loop or the soul contract, you can rewrite it. And let me give you an example. Say you keep attracting partners who abandon you emotionally, and you start to wonder, is this my karma? Well, maybe. But the moment you start doing the work, like healing your inner child or setting boundaries or becoming emotionally available to yourself, you shift the energetic pattern. You tell the universe, I am no longer available for this old contract, and boom, the fucking spell breaks. You liberate yourself and you change what gets passed on. And the body is part of this equation too. So trauma lives in the nervous system. If the soul incarnates through bodies across time, then guess what? Your somatic responses might be echoes from other lives. That panic response when somebody raises their voice. Maybe your soul remembers a life where sound meant death. Or the urge to run from love. Maybe your soul was once punished for loving the wrong person. Your body remembers even when your mind does not. But here's the good news. Healing this lifetime heals your entire soul stream. Because if time is nonlinear, as quantum theory increasingly suggests, then all of your lifetimes are happening simultaneously, which means when you heal this life, it sends a shockwave across the entire timeline. You're not just healing backwards. You're healing sideways and forward and diagonally. You're collapsing timelines and integrating versions of you that never got the closure that they needed. And in this multidimensional magic of living is awareness. And speaking of awareness, some soul contracts are just ready to expire. You can renegotiate. You can say, I've learned what I've needed and I choose a new path. You can call in new contracts and new timelines and new versions of the game. And this isn't about bypassing responsibility. It is about embodying power. It is about being the soul who came here to graduate, not to just repeat. You are not your karma. You are the awareness behind it. You are not your wounds. You are the wisdom they alchemized. And you're not here to suffer endlessly in some karmic purgatory. You are here to wake the fuck up to who you have always been, which is a multidimensional being with the authority to choose love, to choose expansion, and to choose liberation, even when the soul contract says you're supposed to spiral. So, if you're stuck in a loop, ask. What lesson am I avoiding? What belief am I still clinging to? And what truth am I ready to remember? And then release, and rewrite, and realign. The contract isn't permanent. The karma is not forever. You are a living, breathing portal of change, and guess what? That right there might have been the whole damn point. This episode is supported in part by Saged app, aka the app that's basically a metaphysical multivitamin. It's like having a spiritual sanctuary in your pocket minus the incense smoke in your purse. It's also where I host my new moon manifestation clubs, which, if you know, we go deep. So if you're ready to stop doom scrolling and start soul scrolling, download Sage in the App Store or Google Play and then step into a more intentional, magical version of your day. That's SAGED, like Sage, but with an app. Back to the episode. All right, curtain up, lights down, let's set the stage, because Earth is not just a classroom. It is a full-on cosmic production. It's a theater where you and your soul family rotate in and out of roles like seasoned actors with a shared script and a flair for drama. And honey, the plot twists are epic. In one life, you're the daughter. In another, you're the mother. Sometimes you're the villain. Sometimes you're the hero. Sometimes you're just the comic relief. But always, always you are learning something. You're expanding and evolving. And so is everybody around you. Because that ex you can't get over, or that friend you can't stop forgiving, or that parent who just doesn't get you, well, they've probably played a role in your soul's previous lifetimes too, just, wearing a different costume. It's what Dolores Cannon called the play. It's the idea that before you incarnate, you sit with your soul family and you decide the roles that you'll all play to support one another's growth. And these roles are rarely about comfort. They're about transformation. You might say, all right, this time I'm going to be the child who feels abandoned so that I can learn how to reclaim myself. And you be the parent who can't show up emotionally, not because you don't love me, but because that role will catalyze my sovereignty. And I mean, who signs up for this kind of spiritual masochism? But it's us. We do. We are the drama. But let's really get into it, because when you understand that we have played these roles before, you start to look at people with entirely new eyes. You start asking different questions like, why do I feel such an intense pull toward this person? Or why does this relationship feel so unfair but so familiar and yet so unresolved? And often it's because it is unresolved. You didn't finish the karmic scene the last time, so you rewrote the script and met again, hoping that you'd both play your parts with more grace this time around. Now, some people are like background extras. They're lovely and sweet, but not soul stirring. And others, they're like your co stars. They walk on set and your whole nervous system goes haywire. And it's not always love at first sight, but that's that soul that cracked you open in another life. And then your body remembers it before your brain can explain it. And you feel it in your gut and in your dreams and in the way that you can't really seem to let them go no matter how hard you try. But let's talk about soulmates, because we have romanticized the hell out of them. And a soulmate isn't a forever partner. Like, sometimes they're a hurricane, and sometimes they come in and wreck your entire worldview, and they leave you staring at the rubble thinking, what the fuck just happened? And that is a soulmate, baby. Not here for ease, but here for evolution. And don't even get me started on twin flames. That is graduate level reincarnation theater. Because twin flame dynamics are often two halves of the same energetic blueprint, just split across lifetimes to do their own work before and only if they reunite in wholeness. And it's chaotic, and it's electric, and it's meant to trigger you into radical self-love, not codependent spirals. But the drama is rich, isn't it? And it's important to remember, though, that even the most painful roles are chosen with love at the soul level. And that doesn't mean that you have to tolerate abuse or stay in toxicity, like abso-fucking-lutely not. You can honor the contract and still walk away. And sometimes the role that somebody plays in your life is to push you to finally choose yourself. And you can say, contract complete, scene closed. But then there are the sweet ones, the ones who just feel like home. Like, maybe you've known them across centuries, and maybe you have. Maybe they were your child in one life, or your best friend in another, or your soulmate in a third. And in this one, they're just, here, loving you, reminding you, anchoring you. These are the roles that we live for, the soul touches that feel like relief. And the most powerful relationships are the ones where both souls have remembered just enough to meet each other in awareness. Where you say, I know we've done this before, but I want to do it differently this time. And then that's where healing quantum leaps forward. It's when the story starts to change and when karmic patterns become new paradigms. And then here's the quantum layer, because I can't just not go there. If all time exists at once, and spoiler alert, it probably does, then these roles are happening simultaneously. Right now, some version of you is playing out another timeline where that ex didn't leave, or where that friend stayed, or where you chose the other door. And these timelines can bleed into each other through dreams and triggers and flashbacks, or even those sliding door moments where you almost remember something that you've never lived. And this is why healing in this life impacts all the others. Because when you choose love over revenge, or when you choose clarity over chaos, or when you choose to stay when you'd normally run or leave, or when you normally would cling, you shift that pattern. And you free not just this self, but every self tethered to that dynamic. It's quantum liberation. It's like multidimensional therapy. And that's also why ancestral healing is so potent, because many of our reincarnated roles are ancestral. You might be literally reliving your great-grandmother's trauma, not because you're cursed, but because you came back to resolve what she could not, to break the chain, to be the one that remembers. And you might find that the very souls who hurt you before are back now, and they're waiting for you to change the ending. So how do you know what role someone's playing in your life? Well, start with your body. Your body will tell you everything. Does your heart open or close? And do you feel safe or activated? Or are you expanding, or are you shrinking? Pay attention to those patterns. Look at the repeated roles. Like, who keeps showing up as a betrayer? Who keeps playing the fixer or the savior or the saboteur. Like, these aren't just personality quirks. These are casting decisions, and you can change the cast at any time. Because here's the final truth. You're not bound to repeat those roles forever. You can fire your co-stars. You can rewrite the script. You can cancel the show and launch a new one. Because you're the actor and the writer and the director and the audience. You're not at the mercy of the plot because you are the plot. And just like any great story, it is never about perfection. It's about evolution, about learning to love yourself through every messy role, about seeing the villain as a teacher, and the heartbreak as a portal, and the reunion as a sacred remembering. So take a bow. You've played some hard parts. You have loved through lifetimes, and you're still here, writing new lines, remembering old truths, healing the ones that came before you, and clearing the stage for the ones who will come after. And scene. So let's breathe together, right here at the edge of this timeline, and remember what all of this actually means. Because we didn't just take a joyride through lifetimes and soul families and karmic contracts to get our spiritual jollies. We did it to remember, to reclaim, and to reroute into the deepest truth that there is. That this lifetime matters, not because it's the only one, but because it's the one that you're in right now. You are walking the intersection of everything that came before you and everything that'll come after. You are both the ancestor and the future descendant. You're the karmic breaker and the story weaver. And your willingness to be here conscious and cracked open and doing the fucking work is a soul flex of the highest order. We tend to think of reincarnation as something that happens to us. But the truth is, reincarnation is something that we choose. We don't just get hurled into a body and hope for the best. We choose the body. We choose the circumstances. We choose the lessons and the blessings and the whole daggum bundle. And sometimes it's for growth. And sometimes it's for balance. And sometimes it's just because we're trying to finish what we started. And then sometimes it's just because we want to feel again, and to remember again, and to love, and to lose, and to dance, and to rage, and to rise again. And what does that mean for you right now in this body? Well, it means that everything that you're healing, every pattern that you're interrupting, every truth that you're reclaiming, every fuck no that you are finally saying is changing the future and the past in real time. You're the timeline disruptor, the karmic editor-in-chief, the soul with scissors in one hand and sacred glue in the other, because you are breaking contracts that were never meant to stay, and then you're restitching the ones that still hold meaning. And that's what soul growth actually looks like. It's messy, it's non-linear, it's cyclical. It's the spiral staircase, not the straight road. And some days you're transcendent. And some days you're sobbing into your oat milk latte because your inner child just got triggered at a damn staff meeting. And that's okay. That's the work. That's what it means to live with your soul turned on. Because soul growth isn't about escaping being human. It's actually about becoming fully human. It's about bringing your multidimensional awareness into the density of matter and saying, I'll love here. I'll forgive here. I'll breathe here. I'll create here. Because being in a body is sacred. Being alive in a timeline as chaotic and fucked and transformative as this one, that is next level initiation. We are the generation of karmic interrupters. We are the ones who said yes to doing the work that our ancestors could not. We're carrying an ancient story in our bones and trauma in our tissues and dreams from past selves who didn't get to live them out. And yet, here we are, writing new scripts, raising the vibration, lighting the fucking way. And here's the truth most people aren't ready to hear. You're not just living for you. You're living for the 7 generations behind you and the 7 generations ahead of you. You are the bridge. You are that node of change. You're the one that gets to decide what keeps traveling through your lineage and then what ends with you. And no pressure or anything, but it's kind of a big deal. When you start living from this place, when you remember that every decision is rippling out across timelines, you start asking yourself better questions. Like, what am I teaching the future with how I show up today? Or what would it mean to embody the healed ancestor that I wished I had? Or how do I want to be remembered? Not in the egoic sense, but in the energetic one. Because someday somebody's going to call on you, your name, and your energy and your story. They're going to whisper into the void, show me how to do this. Show me how to survive. Show me how to rise. And the work that you are doing now, that's what's going to answer. We don't always get to see the fruits of our soul labor in this lifetime, but every time you choose to sit with your pain instead of projecting it, or every time you hold compassion instead of control, or every time that you stop a toxic cycle mid-loop and say no more, you are making soul history. You are altering the field, and you're sending a flare across time that says, this is where it changed. You're someone's answered prayer. You're somebody's future lineage will call your name in gratitude, and that child who doesn't even exist yet will be freer because you dared to break what tried to break you. And you know what? If that's not sacred, I don't know what the hell is. But let's also talk about spiritual liberation, because this isn't about earning enlightenment points. It's not about being good or pure or even ascended. It's about being real and being whole and being in right relationship with your past and your purpose and your people and your power. Liberation isn't about floating above your karma. It is about diving deep into it and loving yourself through it, and then walking out the other side with more compassion and more clarity than you ever fucking thought possible. And that's where the concept of soul sovereignty comes in. To be sovereign is to be fully present in your power, and not immune to pain, not free from challenge, but aware, and then capable of choosing your response with intention. Because when you're sovereign, you don't react out of old karma, you rewrite it. You don't inherit trauma, you alchemize it. You become the center of your own soul story instead of just playing out a role written by your past lives or your ancestors. So where do you go from here? Well, maybe you start by getting curious about your patterns. Maybe you start to notice which relationships feel like deja vu and you ask, what the fuck am I learning here? Maybe you start honoring your body as the wise archive that it is, not just your lifetime, but the echoes across many. And maybe you start calling your power back from people and places and timelines that no longer need it. Maybe you write a letter to your future self or your future descendant and you ask, what do you need me to shift now so that you can be free? You don't need to remember all your past lives to live this one with intention. You just need to remember who you are beneath the roles and the wounds and the conditioning. You're a soul, a being of light and grit and ancient memory. A story still being written. And you are doing the damn thing. You are living with your eyes open. You're showing up with curiosity and with courage. And you're rewriting the karmic script one sacred yes at a time. So here's your reminder. You're not behind. You haven't messed it up. And you are exactly where your soul needs to be. And every single step that you take from this place, every breath, every boundary, every truth that you embody is a gift to the future. Because you're not just reincarnating. You're becoming the ancestor that they will thank. If you loved this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a glowing review. It helps more beautiful souls like you find this space. Because your words matter, your energy ripples, and every review is like a little spell of support for the Synaptic Soul mission. So until next time, stay curious, stay cosmic, and keep waking the F up.